If you're looking for great Christmas picture books to read with your kids, well then that's what I have for you. This is a little bit of a different video than I normally share. I love a great grocery deal and I'm all about saving money, but I also really love books. Always have, always will. I'm actually a former elementary ed teacher. I have a degree in elementary education and early childhood, and I taught for 10 years before we started having our 4 children, and I became a mom at home and am teaching them. One of the things I have always wanted to do is instill in my children a love of books. So at Christmas time, especially, there are so many wonderful books to share with them. I decided early on to start a tradition with my kids. I wanted not only for them to have special memories of the books, but I wanted them to be able to build their own collection. So we have a couple of different traditions. The first tradition is that we read a Christmas book every day. Now, at different times, we've done this differently, and I know other people still do this, but you can take 25 different Christmas books, wrap them up in wrapping paper before December starts, and then let your children pick and unwrap one each day to read. It's so much fun to do. And then you have a special book to read, even if it's one you already own, which a lot of these are. It's just a great way to make it a special Christmas activity. Very simple and easy to do. And if you're watching this right now in December, this is a good time to start thinking ahead. Maybe you think, well, I can't do it this year. But use this list and start watching for sales and building your collection throughout the year so that by next Christmas, you're going to be ready for that. So that's one way to look at this Christmas tradition of reading. Always have these books ready to read. Some years I've kept it very simple because I still have little ones who like to reread the books, and I'll just put all our Christmas books in a couple of different bins around the house, and the kids pick throughout the day, and we do a lot of Christmas reading with them. Now, the other thing that is my favorite Christmas tradition to do with them is when my kids were little, and I have 4 kids now, and their ages 8, 6, 4, and 2. I started giving them all the same Christmas book every Christmas because I wanted to build a collection for them of their own Christmas books that someday when they're grown, they can take these books out to their home and they will have books already to read with their children, as well as all the memories of reading them as they were a kid. Then they can carry on that tradition with their family. So it's a really great one to do. I do share more details on my blog about the books we've given so far and how we make that tradition work. So I'll leave links to that one as well as a list of all these books that I'm going to share with you. That blog post is really popular, and which is why I wanted to share it in a video format with you today, because I wanted to share a little bit more about these books, and I want to be able to show you a little bit inside some of them and just tell you really briefly what makes this a really special Christmas book and one of my favorites. I will note that these books are all heavily focused on the birth of Jesus. There are a couple that are not, and that's intentional because I think there are some great books that you can share. But for me and my family, I wanted to particularly focus on the Christian aspect of Christmas and Jesus' birth. So you will see that throughout the list. I'll show you those books and then share a couple that are not included. You can develop your list however you want, but if you're a Christian looking for Christmas books to share with your kids, this list is for you. All right, so let's get to it. These are all picture books that you can share. I have 25 different books to share with you. These can be used with young children all the way to older children. Some of these are longer, and I will point those out as well, but I am a firm believer that a great Christmas book can be read regardless of any age. So let's get to it. You ready to see what's on my list? A big stack here on my lap. So let's get started. The first one is Who is Coming to Our House? And it's by Joseph Slate. This is the board book version of it, but there are other versions. There's the full size version. This one is the same regardless of what format you get it in, whether it's board book or in a regular format. And the unique thing about this is that you're going to see it's all the animals talking about who's coming to our house, and it's a mouse who's telling the story, and of course at the end it's baby Jesus coming to their house. So that's a great early one to start with. I'm going to start with some of these early ones. Who is Coming to Our House? This one's called A Child Was Born, and it is a first nativity book. So it's again intended. It's very simple. This is by Grace Macaron. You can see just a couple words on the page, very simple to read. Pull out all my former teaching reading here. And it just goes throughout all of this and shows until we have way at the end here. And that what I liked about this is it shows Jesus growing up a little bit. But it's A Child Was Born, first nativity. Very simple, a great book to have. This one's a little harder to find, but if you can find this one, it is out of print. This is one of my absolute favorites. It's The Newborn King, and it actually doesn't really have an author. It's just because it's adapted from the book of Luke. So if you're looking for a truly biblical account, this one is a great one to share. Just a couple words on the page, and it's all coming from Luke. So it's a great biblical account. I love how they put him in the cave, which is what we probably know was more historical. And it ends with the shepherds going out. So again, out of print generally, but if you can find it, definitely worth tracking down, The Newborn King. This one, I love Mary Mont Simon, and this is the early childhood teacher in me. I read a lot of her things. She actually has a couple Bibles that are written for a first reader level 1 and 2. This is her level 2. You can see this book is very worn. Some of my pages are falling out, but it just does a very good job of telling the story according to Luke 2. And the nice thing about this, if you see the words at the bottom, it really is intended for early readers. So this is one that kindergarten, first grade can easily read themselves. The First Christmas by Mary Mont Simon. This next one is one I stumbled across sometime. Christmas Is For Me. And the unique thing about this is it's a rebus style book. So you can see each one has a symbol and they're focusing on it. And so my kids love chiming in. This is about wreaths and what it symbolizes, and it all comes back to that this is for me, that Christmas is for me. Jesus came for me. And so it's a fun one to read, but it also just has a good message in there with the presents, and it makes it fun to read with your kids because you can point to the pictures and they can find it and read it out loud with them. So Christmas Is For Me here, and this one's by Christine Tagevald there. This one is similar by Martha LaCour, The Manger Where Jesus Lay. But this one, in addition to having the images, is that it repeats. So by the time you get to the end, you're doing each line, you're working your way back through the story, and you're going through each one. So this makes it a great one, again, to read aloud, and you're pointing them out to your kids, and you're going all the way from the shepherds, the angels, the star, working your way back, that filled the manger where Jesus lay. And so it all ends with that. And it shows you the words at the end right there. So, and it shows you baby Jesus. So again, another really great one to read with little kids, The Manger Where Jesus Lay there. This one I stumbled across in a book order a long time ago called Tonight You Are My Baby, and it's Mary's Christmas story. This is a really unique one because it's all from Mary's perspective, and it's even entitled Mary's Christmas Gift. And she says at the end of each line, tomorrow you will be king, but tonight you are my baby. And it's just such a sweet story, all from Mary's perspective, saying, I know right now you're just a baby, but that you are coming to be the king. You're going to save the world. Tomorrow you'll be king, but tonight you're my baby. It's just a really neat perspective. And as a mom, I think it gives a really unique story, a different perspective on the Christmas story. So tonight you are my baby, right there. This is an older one by Max Lucado, The Crippled Lamb, and it tells the story of a lamb, Joshua, who can't do a lot of things. He's crippled, obviously from the title, and he has a friend, a cow named Abigail, and Joshua doesn't get to go off to the pasture with the other sheep. He's left behind because he can't keep up, and Abigail tells him, don't be sad, little Joshua. God has a special place for those who feel left out. Well, wouldn't you know, Joshua's left in the barn when Mary and Joseph arrive. So Joshua gets to be one of the ones who is welcoming baby Jesus and keeping him warm. So that's a very sweet story, The Crippled Lamb, a nice Christmas one to share. A newer one by Max Lucado is Itsy Bitsy Christmas. And again, this is focusing from the animal story, and it's kind of saying you're never too little for Christmas to share God's love. If you've ever small or little, this is from a story of mice, and they're in Bethlehem and they're feeling very overlooked. They had heard that something special was going to happen, that the king was coming to Bethlehem, and no one really believes them. And they said, why should he come here for us? It's Bethlehem, which Bethlehem was. It was really ordinary. And they said, we heard a king was coming. Why would a king come to Bethlehem? That's what everyone keeps saying. And the mice are getting really discouraged. Well, they finally find out that yes, the king did come. He came to Bethlehem in a stable, and God sent Jesus for all of us. And so that's the story of the Itsy Bitsy Christmas, a fun one to read. This is by Lisa Ton Bergeron, and she writes a lot of chapter books or chapter fiction books for grown-up Christian women, which I love her. She's a fabulous author. And this one is God Gave Us Christmas. She also has a series with these bears called God Gave Us You and all those different things. But this one focuses on the little bear and his mom, and he's saying, well, who gave us Christmas? Is Santa more important? Is Christmas more important? And she says, well, let me show you. And she takes the bear out exploring and is showing him all these things that God created, and the lights and what it means that, God at work, the lights, how God is, Jesus is the light of the world. This isn't my husband's favorite. He kind of goes, what's going on? But I think it's a really unique story in how it shows that we're seeing Jesus and Jesus has come, and we're thanking God for Christmas. So this is a really sweet one, again, focused on the bears. God Gave Us Christmas there. This is one of our favorites, and the kids all have this in their collection, called Mortimer's Christmas Manger. Again, a mouse, seems to be a trend. This is by Karma Wilson, who actually wrote the Bear Snores On series, if you've read any of those. This one, unfortunately, isn't as popular, and I think it should be. It's a great book to read. It's about a mouse, and he's looking for a house. And so he climbs up the tree, and he finds this little house that's just perfect for him, this nativity. So he crawls inside, and he tugs out the statues and climbs into the manger. And he does this every day over the Christmas season for several days, until on Christmas Eve, he hears, as he's in there, he hears the story of Jesus being born, and he understands that these weren't just statues, that this was baby Jesus. He understands what this is all about. And so he moves out that Jesus saved the world. And so that's Mortimer's Christmas Manger, a very sweet one there. This next book is one that was new this year, just published, called Bethlehem Barn. And it's kind of built around that old tale that if animals could talk on Christmas Eve for a half hour or an hour, what would happen? And so it's telling about these animals in the barn who saw Jesus being born. And it's very sweet and very reverent in how the animals welcomed Jesus. So this was a newer one that we just added, but we're enjoying that one too. And you can see the animals all welcoming Jesus there. Bethlehem Barn. If you do Santa Claus, there are different ones. I don't have any Santa books that we read, except we do read the St. Nicholas version, the true story of the Christmas legend. And this one's by Julie Stegemeyer. I love this one just because it has great illustrations, and it focuses truly on the true story of St. Nicholas as a pastor, and how he gives the dowries to the girls, and how he kind of becomes the legend, and how he gives gifts. The nice thing about this is, I have read this in school. I did teach a Lutheran school, but I've read this in school, and it doesn't do anything to detract from Santa, whether you do Santa or you don't. This is just a very nice book teaching the true story of St. Nicholas. So you can easily read this in a lot of different settings. This is my favorite one. Again, Julie Stegemeyer wrote this one. This also is out of print, but I am still able to find copies of it, and I have tracked down new copies on eBay and different places before. The Christmas Star, and this one's by Mariah Butterfield. What I love about this is the illustrations are all here. They are all pictures that she did, like she formed these pictures out of statues, out of fabric, and then took pictures. So they're just really unique ones. They're really unique pictures. But this one also goes with the wise men all the way through with little boy Jesus, like the Bible says. which I appreciate. And it even goes all the way through to Herod and the angels going after, and it ends with, we're so thankful with all of that. So it really goes through the whole Christmas story on this one, the Christmas Star. If you can track down copies, this is definitely worth having in your collection. This is also one of the books I've given all our kids, the Christmas Star. We do some different hymns, and when I look for hymn books, I try to find books that are actually all the original words to the Christmas song or the Christmas hymn. And this is Silent Night. This was a newer one by Laura Hawthorne, and just very simple illustrations. I like them, and it goes through all the verses of Silent Night as well, which is nice. So you're seeing all of that there. So I like that one, Silent Night. All right, now we have a couple books that are not particularly Christ-centered, but good books that we read. The next three are all the legends, and I'm sure you've heard of them, The Legend of the Candy Cane. This is the old illustrations. There is a new book with new illustrations, but it's the exact same words by Lori Wahlberg. Great story, how this man's opening a candy store in a small town. The girl has a secret wish. She wants to find out. They take the candy cane around and what it represents. This is a great one, definitely a classic, also in our kids' collection right there. But in that series, there's several more that you might not know about. This one is The Legend of the Christmas Cookie. And this one tells about a boy. His father is away. This is kind of Depression time. And he gets to bake these special cookies with his mom. And they're from old cookie molds. And they talk about what they mean, the angel and the Christmas story. And they hope their father's coming home. And yet he ends up giving away his Christmas cookie to someone who comes by, because we give at Christmas time. And so even though his father wasn't home, they're able to share Christmas and the true meaning of Christmas with the Christmas story with others. So this is The Legend of the Christmas Cookie. And then there's also The Legend of the Christmas Tree. There's another one, The Pine Tree Parable, which is a little bit shorter and aimed more at younger kids. I like that one actually a little bit more. This one goes really in depth, so it's more for older kids, but it talks about the symbolism of the Christmas tree. So this is one with the Christmas tree, or again, The Pine Tree Parable is another good one to use at Christmas time for the legends. Some more snowmen at Christmas. There's a whole series with these, all very sweet, all very cute. This is a fun one, Snowmen at Christmas. It imagines what the snowmen are doing on Christmas Eve when they go out. And the neat thing is, it even has them, it has the snowman Kris Kringle in there showing up, but it also has them singing songs to worship the birth of the king, and it imagines what are snowmen doing at Christmas. So just a fun Christmas story to read there. Of course, every Christmas collection does have to have the Nutcracker in it. And there's so many great versions of the Nutcracker, but this is our favorite. It's Mary Englebright, and it's her version of the Nutcracker. Tells a great version of the story, but the illustrations are just so beautiful. If you're familiar with Mary Englebright, she does just very detailed everything. She always puts borders in around everything. So there's all these candy canes. This girl is very sweet, just such detailed, beautiful illustrations. So definitely have a copy of the Nutcracker in your collection, but this is our favorite, Mary Englebright's The Nutcracker. And along with that, then, the 12 Days of Christmas. Again, so many versions, and you can track down lots of them. This one is Ann Geddes, and again, it's an older one, and it just has the babies, which my kids love. So it's babies on every page. But the 12 Days of Christmas is a good classic one to have in your collection. If you watch Christmas movies at all, then you know about It's a Wonderful Life. I stumbled across this 2 years ago. It was just released 2 or 3 years ago, and it's my husband's favorite movie. It's the movie his family always watches on Christmas Eve at some point. So this, I gave it for him, and I'd read other books before, but this one, the Illustrated Holiday Classic by Paul Ruditis, I don't know how you say that name exactly, but it actually is the closest to the movie that you've ever seen. And they do a good job with the illustrations too, going through. So if you've ever seen the movie and you are a fan of it and you love It's a Wonderful Life, this is definitely one you'll want to check out and add to your collection as well, because it tells the whole story of the movie, stays true to it, beautifully, beautifully done. It's a Wonderful Life. And then the last couple are getting more detailed here. And so these are ones with It's a Wonderful Life that I just showed you. But these are ones I would start using more with older kids. The Very First Christmas by Paul Meyer. This one does have a board book available that's much simpler that you could use. But this one I like because it's very accurate biblically. You can see there's a lot more words. It does share actual quotes from scripture. So they're telling the story. It's a dad talking to his son and but then they're sharing actual verses from scripture and just beautiful illustrations as well. And truly very art-like. And it continues more after Jesus was born too. So you have the manger there, and it's going all through the Christmas story with the shepherds, and ends with it. Just a beautiful, true story, true to scripture, The Very First Christmas by Paul Meyer. And then for older children, The Christmas Miracle of Jonathan Toomey, right here. His mother's a widow, and they're working with a wood carver. Just a very sweet story. And it goes through that story, but a lot more words. You can do this with older kids, or it would be one that you read over the course of a couple nights, but that's a very sweet one. And finally, my last book is my absolute favorite Christmas book, and unfortunately right now it's out of print, but again, you can still find it in different places, and I highly recommend you do. It's called Mary's First Christmas, and it's by Walt Wangren. This is my absolute favorite, and I read it with our kids. Even though it's longer, we just break it up over the course of a couple nights. So I'm talking preschool, kindergarten age. I started reading this when I taught 3rd and 4th grade. I would read it over the course of a couple days because it's kind of developed in almost into natural chapters. So it's Mary telling the story to Jesus when he is about 5 years old. She's telling him a bedtime story, and she calls him Yeshi for Yeshua. And she tells him this whole story of how he was born. And it's telling of her love and Joseph's love and the angel. And it's just told so beautifully with gorgeous, again, illustrations. When Jesus was born, this is my favorite there, and it's the one on the cover, Mary looking down at him when he's born. And it goes all through again when the wise men showed up, and it talks about how when he was a little boy, and Simeon and Anna. It goes through all the things as he's growing up and about his love and how he lives. And then it talks about how he's learning to be a carpenter with Joseph, his adopted earthly father. And it's just absolutely, and you can see he's building. And he's learning to build, and I love that because what's he building? He's building a cross. And there's just so much in there. It's absolutely beautiful. Mary's First Christmas is a great book. I would highly recommend. Okay, so that was a big stack, but those are 25 different Christmas picture books that I believe are great ones that would be wonderful to read with your children of all ages, whether you're reading them all every Christmas or you want to start developing a collection of your own. I hope this gives you some good ideas of books to track down. Check out your library to see if you can find them and actually read through them yourselves. There are so many more great Christmas books, and I'd love to know in the comments, tell me some of your favorites. I'm constantly adding to our collection. This is not by any means all the books we have. This is probably about a quarter of my collection, maybe a third of it. Like I said, I'm a former teacher who loved books, but these are some of our favorites, and I hope that you will have found some new favorites as well. So please tell me your favorite Christmas book that you love to read with your children in the comments, because I would love to know if we have it as well. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, be sure to give us a thumbs up. I hope you enjoy reading with your children this Christmas season, and I hope you have a very Merry Christmas.